now, and we know that the West African leaders are holding an emergency summit here in Accra in response to a recent spate of coups in the region. The talks on Thursday were initiated after Burkina Faso on January 24 became the third member of a 15-nation economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, to be overtaken by the military. ECOWAS at the meeting is seeking to find a lasting solution to the political situation in Burkina Faso and other countries having similar issues. Burkina Faso President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore was deposed amid public anger at his handling of violence by armed groups. ECOWAS has subsequently suspended Burkina Faso from all the activities as a means to compel them to return the country to democratic governance. Burkina Faso followed Mali, where a coup in September 2020 was followed by a second in May 2021, and Guinea, where elected President Alpha Condé was deposed last September. Thursday's talks also come days after the president of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, survived an attempted coup after assailants armed with machine guns and assault rifles attacked the government palace. The region's recent turmoil has stoked fears among ECOWAS countries that efforts to steer West Africa towards stability and democracy are failing. Thursday's meeting again will assess the bloc's actions moving forward. Many countries in the ECOWAS bloc were concerned that the coups may inspire similar actions against their governments. And President Akufo-Addo has been speaking at this particular ECOWAS meeting, calling on all leaders of the bloc to put in place measures to deal with the situation in those countries. Nana Kukwedi, our correspondent, is telling us what to expect and also what the president has been speaking about specifically.
Leaders this morning are meeting specifically to deliberate on happenings in Burkina Faso, but they are worried equally because of the spate of coups in the sub-region, Guinea, Mali, and now Burkina Faso. And just recently, an attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau. They sent high-powered delegation of army chiefs on Monday to Burkina Faso, and also a ministerial level to the same place as well. So they are here to assess the mission's progress and the reports to know exactly whether there should be further sanctions. Remember, in a virtual meeting, they condemned the act and called for President Kabore to be released. So they are coming to deliberate on the report from the delegations they sent, and then the outcome will be made known to the public. And definitely will be on the beat to bring our viewers the outcome.
You heard there our presidential affairs correspondent giving us what to expect from this meeting, which we understand is already underway. In fact, the president, who is the chair of ECOWAS, has been speaking and admonishing leaders on the continent to work to ensure these coups that have characterized political administrations in some of the countries in Mali, in Burkina Faso, recently Guinea-Bissau, are brought to a halt. He's also been urging the leaders to deal with those situations. Let's listen to President Akufo-Addo. And we'll have analysis on this to understand exactly what the meeting here in Accra, Ghana, will be meaning for some of the situations we're having. Overall, Africa has experienced more coups than any other, and we'll bring you some highlights of coups on the continent.
A coup is an illegal and overt attempt by the military or other civilian officials to unseat certain leaders. Burkina Faso in West Africa has had the most successful coups, with 8 takeovers and only 1 failed coup. 5 African countries, 6 coups. Why now? Burkina Faso this week joined a list of countries that have recently experienced military takeovers. On Tuesday, February 1, an attempted coup was launched in Guinea-Bissau. Reasons for the coup: insecurity, poor governance, and frustrated youth. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo said on Friday it represents a threat to peace, security, and stability in West Africa. UN Secretary General condemned the terrible multiplication of coups in the region, which he called totally unacceptable. In the past 18 months, in similar scenes, military leaders have toppled the government of Mali, Chad, Guinea, Sudan, and now Burkina Faso. If ECOWAS or the AU fails to act now, which country will be next to experience a coup?
We can now listen to President Akufo-Addo, who has been addressing ECOWAS leaders here in Accra on the need to deal with political issues that lead to coups and destabilization on the continent.
And Chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Government for his welcome address. Your Excellency, you may kindly make your address from your seat.
Members of the Authority of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Chairperson of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers, President of the ECOWAS Commission, President of the UEMOA Commission, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel region, the representative of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the head of MINUSMA, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with a heavy heart that I welcome all of you today back in Accra after our virtual meeting last week. I want to thank you for your presence in this extraordinary summit, which will focus on the emerging threats in our region that stem from the military interference in Mali and its contagious influence in Guinea and Burkina Faso. Fortunately, the attempt 2 days ago to overthrow the democratically elected government of President Umaru Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau by a military coup failed, and the would-be putschists are being rounded up as we meet. I speak for all of us when I applaud President Embalo for sustaining the validity of the democratic institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Your presence here is a strong indication of your willingness to find a sustainable solution to the resurgence of the canker in our region. Let us address this dangerous trend collectively and decisively before it devastates the whole region. Excellencies, the resurgence of coups d'etats in our region is a matter of grave concern. This evolution challenges the democratic way of life we have chosen. We need to stand firm to protect democracy and freedom in our region. You'll recall that during a virtual summit held on the 28th of January 2022, we suspended Burkina Faso from participating in ECOWAS's institutions and requested the immediate release of President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, who was detained alongside other political actors. During our summit, we reaffirmed our commitment to upholding the principle of zero tolerance for ascending to power through unconstitutional means, and therefore demanded an immediate restoration of constitutional order by the military. To assess more accurately the security and political situations in Burkina Faso, we agreed to dispatch 2 missions, respectively, the Committee of ECOWAS Chiefs of Defense Staff, led by the Ghanaian Chief of Defense Staff, on Saturday, 30th January 2022, and a joint ministerial delegation led by the chairperson of the Council of Ministers, the Ghanaian Foreign Minister, including the President of the Commission and the UN Secretary General's representative for the Sahel and West Africa, on Monday, 31st January 2022. Their reports have been submitted for our consideration. Excellencies, I commend our continental body, the African Union, on its firm decision to suspend Burkina Faso from participating in AU organs and institutions.
President Akufo-Addo there speaking as the ECOWAS summit currently underway here in the capital, Accra. Let's speak to security analyst. He's also an international relations watcher, Adib Sani. Thank you, Adib, for joining us. So we heard there the president reiterating some of the measures they put in place whenever some of these issues come up on the continent. It's becoming fashionable, some have said, these coups that are happening on the bloc. Beyond these sanctions that are imposed at meetings and summits like this, on the ground, does it appear these sanctions mean anything at all in these countries?
I'm so sorry, I cannot hear you.
I'm afraid we'll try again to get through to Adib Sani. We'll rectify that and get to him to understand exactly what this means to the bloc. Adib, can you hear me now?
It's better now.
Great. I wanted to find out, people have said it's fashionable now that we're seeing coups in some of the places on the continent. We had the president there speak about some of the measures and the sanctions that were imposed. Beyond these, does it appear that the countries in question take these sanctions seriously, and what difference do they make?
Absolutely not. And the sad truth about the sanctions regime is that it doesn't affect the leaders or the ruling class. It is the people who continue to suffer. And already these countries that have gone through coups have serious issues with insecurity, especially with ISIS and Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups wreaking havoc in those countries. So when you impose sanctions, it rather makes it more difficult to counter the threats, and you embolden these groups who would wish to even expand their, so-called jihadism beyond the countries they have established foothold. So the sanctions rather is putting us in a much more precarious situation as so far as, peace and security is concerned. Okay. Secondly, I think ECOWAS really needs to have a relook at its template. The usual thing is immediately the military takes over power, they issue statements, then they call for a meeting, issue some warnings, then there's a first wave of sanctions, and if it is not having any effect, then we have a second wave. And that, I must say, is not helping. For example, there were sanctions on Mali to get the people to, as it were, not be happy with the military. But in the end, it rather made the military, heroes. I think that the sanctions regime is not really going to help in this situation.
Okay, so going forward, what must change? Because it would appear these coups and political attacks will not end.
Absolutely. I mean, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres couldn't have gotten it right. He said that we seem to have found ourselves in a coup epidemic in West Africa. Let me also add that last year, there's been more coups in Africa than any other year since 1999. So that should send us a clear message to the effect that, look, there are legitimate issues. We have deep-rooted socio-economic and geopolitical deficits. Some are country-specific, some cut across that government needs to address. Okay. There's widespread insecurity, and you and I know full well that the two main functions of the state is to provide human security and physical security, and a lot of these governments are unable to do that. There's widespread poverty in Burkina Faso. In the Human Development Index, out of 189 countries, Burkina Faso is ranked 182nd. In June, in a town in Sohan, over 160 civilians were killed. The same period in a town called Inata, somewhere in November, over 50 gendarmes were killed. So, there's widespread insecurity which really needs to be addressed, and these countries cannot do it alone. ECOWAS has to play a central role. So we have to go beyond the militarized posture and adopt the human security approach, which I must say will be much more sustainable.